Do you have a story to share with the world? Of course you do. We all have stories to share. An Anchor podcast allows you to share your interests in a way that connects to others all across the globe. If you have been considering starting your own podcast and don't know where to begin, Anchor makes it easy to record, edit, and publish with the click of a button. You can even add music. Whether it's crime dramas, self-improvement, paranormal adventures, or tips about parenting, you too can share your unique imprint on the world. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. You've got this. I believe in you. Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. I have Zoe Whitehead here with me today. Zoe is the founder of Lunar Lightworker, and she's also the host of the Lunar Lightworker podcast. Zoe supports lightworkers to align to the Earth, cosmic, and lunar cycles so that they can step into their highest frequency. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the lunar influence and how cosmic cycles can affect our lives. So welcome, Zoe. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited as well. I love these sorts of chats.
Yeah, so we are a few days ahead of the harvest moon. Now, the harvest moon is one of my favorites because it's so beautiful in the sky, and in the States, we're moving into the fall season. We're moving into that harvest season, and the weather starts to get a little cooler, and that big, beautiful moon in the sky. This is one of my favorites. So, what is going on in the cosmos right now? Can you explain? How is this moon going to impact us? And I see that it's in Pisces. So we were just saying that it could be a little emotional. So how are we, what should we expect, over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so such a good question, Tanya. Well, probably as you've gathered, I am absolutely obsessed with moonology and cosmology and the impact and the influence that it has on us as empaths, obviously, because we're highly sensitive to that, and light workers as well, because as you said, I work very closely with that kind of group of people. And I follow very closely the cycles, the lunar cycles and cosmic cycles as well. But let's start with the lunar cycle, because it's such a vast topic in itself and how that impacts on us. So obviously we've got this big full moon coming up on Friday. We'll also be in a master day, the 9/9, ninth day of the ninth month, which will be bringing in an energy of completion, but also connecting more to our spiritual lineages. And like you said, the moon, as you probably know, it moves through the constellations every few days, and it will be in Pisces if it isn't already. And for me, I mean, what I could do, Tanya, maybe is just give you a little kind of overview of the main phases and how they impact us. Maybe if we start there, and then I can focus more on this full moon. But so for me, I focus on four main phases. There are more phases to the moon, obviously, and her cycle. But for me, what I focus on is the dark moon into the new moon, and then the full moon into the waning moon. And I liken those phases to the seasonal cycles and our own personal female cycle. So when we're in the dark moon, this is when we have the least amount of light. To me, it's like the winter phase. It's a very inward, female, feminine energy. So we have the least amount of energy. We're going within. We're introspective. We're, probably getting, sort of a lot of insecurity rising. I always feel like I have a wobble around the dark moon phase. But we get a lot of clarity, don't we, as well around that time, because we're inwards, we're stilling, it's a really good time to kind of get clear over what it is, what newness we want to bring in. Okay. And then we move into the new moon, which for me is a real power period, really potent. The new moon is when we start our female cycle. If we are attuned, obviously, to the lunar cycle, both are around a 28-day cycle. So, you know, the ancients understood how to harness this and really tune the cycle, the feminine cycle, to this cycle. But we can talk more about that in a moment.
That's funny you say that, because I had that written down on my notes. My cycle is actually in tune to the full moon. It seems like every time I have a full moon. So I don't know, is that normal, or do I need to switch that, or how does that work?
It's funny. I was being interviewed earlier today, and we talked exactly like that. That some women are, you know, they shed over the full moon rather than the new moon. But, you know, I think first and foremost, it's about looking at your own energy and, you know, how you can honor yourself within that. I used to get really like, right, I've got to align, and you know, because it would be easier and it would make sense. But, you know, first and foremost, it's about looking at your own energy. And there's so many cosmic influences on us. You know, it's not just the lunar cycle. So, you know, I wouldn't worry, but we can talk about how we can align more to the cycle of the moon as well. So yeah, we go into the new moon. So it's a beautiful phase. It's the spring, it's new beginnings, fresh starts. You know, we're looking at what we want to bring in, you know, what projects maybe, what inspiration we've had from that dark moon. And then we move into the full moon phase, which is like the summer phase. So it's full light, it's full creative expression, it's lots of downloads and inspiration. It's a brilliant time to be very sociable as well. And also, you know, if you've got any projects on the go, it's a good time to really get stuck into that, because it's a more masculine outward energy. So, you know, you're really starting to, you know, get things done, get the job done, get completion, all of that. But it's also a beautiful time to be looking back over what it is you have manifested and created over that cycle. Gotcha. I think I forgot to say as well that the new moon is a good time to set your intentions. So new moon intentions, full moon celebration,
or reflection.
Reflection, exactly. And then we go into the autumn phase, the waning, where we're shedding, not so much having our belief, but kind of shedding, looking back and looking at what's not worked, what's worked, depending on how much we've manifested and co-created up until then, will be very much depending on how we feel. You know, we feel within ourselves as well. So it's more that PMT phase, and then we go into the winter phase again, and it's the shed and, you know, the least amount of light and energy. So autumn into winter is a more female, inward, introspective energy. Spring, summer, masculine, outward energy. So that's really, I've really summed it up really quickly, but I don't know, aligning to the seasonal and female cycle has really helped me understand a lot more of how she can really influence and impact on us.
Absolutely. And I think I think I was in tune with the new moon at one time, and then somehow I shifted over, but I do recognize I'm on a 28-day cycle, because every time that full moon comes, I am, you know, getting my cycle. So it's kind of funny. I don't even really remember when it shifted, but somehow it did. And I'm sure I'll shift it back at some point. But I've been talking to some of my friends, and they're noticing it as well. They're like, I'm starting to tune with the moon cycles. Are you doing that too? And I'm like, I am, just kind of organically. So it wasn't like I was setting intentions for that to happen. It just started to naturally do it. And then I was recognizing it. And so I also do full moon rituals when it comes to cleansing my body. So parasites are actually highly active during full moons in the body. And so I start a parasite cleanse about 3 days prior, and I take it through the full moon, and then take it about 3 days after. And so I've got it on my schedule, you know, to take this cleanse during the full moons. And then I started to recognize my female cycle started to link up with that as well. So it was kind of interesting, because I wasn't really expecting that to happen, but naturally it just started to kind of take place.
That's Interesting. Yeah, no, I've never heard of that before, actually. So that's a lovely thing that you do for yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess they lay dormant in the body most of the moon cycle, but that's okay. So I used to work in the hospital in the emergency departments and the intensive care units. And during the full moons, it would get very busy and very kind of chaotic. So the word lunar, the word lunatic actually comes from the word lunar. And so, I kind of attribute that back to parasitic activity in the body. Is during the full moons, the parasites get a little more active, and that makes people a little more kind of crazy, so to speak. So the more I started to research different types of detoxes and cleanses, I recognized that the moon cycles had a lot to do with it. And that was very interesting because you would have never correlated that, together.
No.
But it's funny when you start going down some of these rabbit holes and start learning about things, how much the cosmic energy, the moon and the earth energy play a role in our bodies, and how we can tap into that. So yeah, that's kind of a little caveat there that I learned on my own. But I've been noticing, I used to get a little more emotional during full moons. I could really feel and tap into that energy, where now that I've been doing these cleanses, it's probably been about a year now I've been doing them, I'm a lot more stable and a lot more balanced. So it's been very positive, for me to be able to do those little rituals for myself.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what is happening in the cosmic world right now? So I
Mm.
know there's a lot. I'm recognizing time is moving a lot faster, at least in
Yeah.
my experience, it is. So can we
Yeah.
talk about that? I know there's a lot of solar activity happening right now. I'm a sun sign in Aries, so I love the solar activity. I feel like I get very inspired and very motivated, where I'm watching some of my friends who are more air signs and water signs, and they're burnt out and they're drained. So, let's talk about that a little bit. What are we seeing on a cosmic level that could be affecting us here in the physical?
Yeah, so absolutely. So obviously we've got this full moon coming up in Pisces, like we said, and I just wanted to go back to that kind of amplification as well. It is a power period, a potent period. So, like you quite rightly said, whatever is going on for you will be more of. So whether it's negative, positive, so that's always
Gotcha.
something to kind of be aware of. Obviously, we're in a master day on Friday. I mean, what I'm seeing for the whole of September, it's all on the weekends. I was saying that this morning, actually, that it's bizarre. I've never seen it like that. So we've got quite a few weekends coming up where it's really going to be intensely powerful. And I feel like the time speeds up. Sometimes it slows down in tiny little pockets, but generally we get this feeling of time speeding up. And I feel that's because of the energetic intensity. We have so much going on celestially. It is unreal. Even my kids are saying that. I never said that as a kid. Time used to drag by, but even they are saying it. So it's not an age thing, is it? It really
No,
is.
and the months are flying by. I'm like, where
Yeah,
did August go? Like,
yeah,
it's just insanity right
yeah,
now, how
yeah,
quickly it's in a blink of an eye. It's like,
yeah.
I feel like what used to be a month is now like a week. I'm like, this is just
I know
insane.
it's just like it's evaporating, isn't it? And
Yes.
so the overarching energy, which I feel I need to talk about, is obviously the age of Aquarius, right? We're stepped into this 1,000+ year cycle. This was happening sort of a few years back. We're gradually stepping into that. It's going to take a whole lot longer to really anchor through those energies. So what that means for us is, a kind of more global thinking, more humanitarian, more unity consciousness, more community driven. So we're all feeling that, whether we're conscious of it or not. And you can see it worldwide, things breaking down, old hierarchies, structures, institutions that are just not working anymore. Everything is coming to the light. There's like big shedding
Absolutely.
coming, going on. And this is helping us to move into a more of a fifth dimensional consciousness as well. So that's going on. But then, all of this year, oh my goodness, we've had eclipse energies, we've had super moons, you name it, we've had it. meteor showers. This month alone is again what I would call a power month. So we have up to 7 planets in retrograde, which is huge. At the beginning of the year, we had none. It's rare. Well, I don't know whether it's rare. It's difficult for me to say because I don't have a whole kind of awareness around it over a long period. But I don't think I've personally known so many planets in retrograde since I started my awakening. And so that means that, the planets, what I find really fascinating is the way that they support us. So they support us in different ways, obviously, but they also at the same time spotlight where we've been blocked in however they're supporting us. So the best example I can give is Mercury retrograde, because everyone's
That's a common one. Yeah.
It's a common one because it retrogrades 3 or 4 times a year. Its influence is no greater, but we've all heard of it. And there's this whole thing around connectivity and I don't know, my camera was not working the other night, and then I couldn't get my microphone to connect. Your internet connectivity is not great. We all feel it. And it's simply showing us in that respect probably what needs upgrading, what needs a little bit of attention, so it's a positive thing, although it's highly frustrating, especially when it comes to electrical devices, and cars and things like that. You're like, oh, but in other ways, it supports us in the way we connect with others, the way we communicate. So at the moment, Mercury is in its shadow phase, its pre-shadow phase. But again, this weekend, it moves into the active phase. And that's when things get really interesting.
On top of the full moon.
On top of the full moon and the power day.
And the 9/9 portal. Yeah.
It is unreal.
Well, it's going to be a fun weekend.
So brace yourselves. For me, this cosmic wisdom is crucial, especially for empaths and light workers, because otherwise I just think we think we're losing it. Do you know what I mean? If I didn't have this understanding.
And I think if you understand it, you can ride the wave versus being thrashed around in the riptide, so it's like, if you can expect it's coming and do the proper self-care, because that's been my experience. It's like, okay, I see these energies coming. I'm going to fast. So honestly, fasting has been one of the best things for me, because the lighter I feel, the more I can ride those waves. But if you're aware of it, drinking more water, just taking better care of yourself, then not on those highly charged cosmic energies, you'll feel a lot better, at least as an empath. That's been my experience.
Yeah, I think you're so, it's about supporting the physical as well, isn't it? Just as much as the emotional, mental, spiritual. But I think you're so on it to be doing that, and it is like it's almost like a detoxification in some of these aspects, especially the eclipse energies, and they're so rapidly shifting, because essentially that's what we're being led to do, is to, with all of this, we talk about it being really difficult, because what's happening is we are being supported to release whatever it is no longer serving us. So whether it's on a physical, mental, emotional, but also get clarity over where it is that we need to move to, how to expand, how to grow. But obviously, in order to grow, we need to get rid, right? We need to shed. So definitely supporting your physical is really, really important, because it's hard. It's exhausting sometimes, isn't it?
It is. And your physical is a lot denser. So oftentimes we can clear things energetically, emotionally, mentally a lot quicker than it takes a little bit longer for the physical to manifest. And so oftentimes what we've created in the physical was manifested months ago, so it's so important to keep track of the physical and how are you feeling, because oftentimes we're so caught up. I know during our awakening, we're so caught up in the quantum, in the energetic and, and in the emotional, we're healing and we're moving through the traumas, and we forget about our little physical body here that, the physical's like, wait for me. So it is important to focus on that. And so what are some physical things that we can do for this big weekend coming up. I mean, we're a few days moving into it. What's some advice or some suggestions you can give to not only empaths, to anybody who, may be moving through this, what looks like a bit of a hurricane of a weekend that we may experience?
I'm kind of like worried everyone, but definitely keeping that bigger picture in mind. I know that's not so much will impact on our physical, obviously, in some way, but just keep that bigger picture in mind. But I'm a big believer in salt baths, so I absolutely love, processed the better, big handfuls in the bath. It's such a purifier and a detoxer. If you're someone who loves water, I mean, for example, I go open water swimming, and it's cold water. It's the UK, it's freezing, but it just, oh my God, it just gives me that headspace that I need. And I found that very beneficial. But I'm now, because of that, having freezing cold showers every day, and again, it really revitalizes my body. So those are the sorts of things I do. I'm sure that a lot of listeners, your listeners and yourself including, probably do things like conscious eating.
Yep.
So I call it vibrational eating.
Or intuitive eating. Yeah, whatever.
Eating, whatever. And, I have a little bit of whatever I fancy, but I mainly stick to, smoothies, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, raw vegetables. I don't follow a particular system, but I just eat
lighter.
what looks really fresh and vibrant. And I feel like you a lot lighter for it. Fasting as well, brilliant. I don't eat until about midday.
That's how I am too. And I've been guided to do that. It's like my higher self is like, it's time for you to intermittent fast. And I'm recognizing that I don't want the food as much because it makes me hurt, and it makes me feel heavier. And so, and drinking plenty of natural water, natural spring water. You talked about the water, taking the baths, taking a swim. I think during these high lunar energy waves, or even solar activity, you get very dehydrated. The more water you can drink, the better your body will feel. I know I can sense when we have a lot of solar activity because I'm just parched, and I'll like, all right, I'm going to just drink a whole gallon of water right now. And I feel amazing. It's like, oh, I feel so much better. So that's important. Breathing techniques too. I think deep breathing. That's very helpful. And getting out and moving, whether you're walking or if it's inside and it's cold and snowy, doing some movement, doing some activity, stretching, yoga, dancing, whatever you can do. I know that that's very helpful as well to move the energy through the body so it doesn't get stuck. Yeah. Is there anything else that you can think of that maybe we missed?
Well, I'm a big believer in decluttering. So, inner and outer worlds and environments. So, I really, really pay attention to what I'm telling myself, my inner narratives, always, because again, it is like a detoxifying, isn't it? And you need to be shedding. Obviously it's not possible to be totally on it 100% of the time, but I start my day with my goddess practices, as I like to call them. I sit and in a quiet space, I do my journaling, and that seems to kind of lead on to a kind of awareness over the day of what I'm telling myself. I really like to purge, those thoughts that just don't serve me. I don't want to be feeding my mind with things like that. It's like you have to look at all of those planes, all of the bodies, really, the emotional, mental, physical and spiritual. So I would definitely be doing that. I'm sure as an empath you'd be very intentional in what you watch. I seem to be watching more and more teenage kind of series on Netflix because they're light. I can't
No, I agree with you, because I was just telling my sister the other day, Netflix has gotten heavy. Like there's some heavy shows on there. And if you can choose the lighter shows, the happier shows, you will feel so much better. And I do a lot of cleansing too. I like essential oils, Palo Santo, sage, lavender at night, diffusing those oils, or just smelling them, bringing them into your body. You can even burn sage if you want to.
Yeah.
Frankincense and myrrh are excellent. Those are ways I love to cleanse on the new moons and the full moons, just my space, my energy. And that's a ritual that I do that I love that. I think it feels lighter, it feels good. And that's part of that decluttering, because there's energy built up in our bodies and in our spaces that we may not see. So just cleansing that space, however you want to do it. If you don't like the smoke, I know I have a lot of clients who are like, I don't like to burn the sage, but you can do the essential oils and that's just as effective. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use resin. I love like frankincense, on the charcoal disc. Is that what you mean, where you just, I use that a lot. I used to use white Californian sage, but I found it just smelled of cigarettes afterwards, although it is hugely clearing. But I prefer the resins. It just feels lighter, I prefer the scent of it. But it's like you say, it's personal, isn't it? It's personal to us, and it's what we resonate with. Some people use crystal bowls as well to cleanse, and sound, sound baths, that sort of thing can be highly effective as well. But it's, I believe it's about looking at, everything in our environment that, even to the objects as well, can really clutter and feel heavy if there's some sort of emotional attachment. I mean, there's so much you could be doing, books that you're reading, people that you spend time with as well, especially over those full moons and periods of high intensity. I would really be considering who you spend time with. I think we get very skilled, don't we, as empaths,
We do.
protecting our energy and knowing what's sapping it.
And who feels good to be around and who doesn't.
Exactly. So, just be boundaried, because we have gifts to offer, and especially those of us that are light workers, we want to be of service. And if our light and we in ourselves, or we're not in a good space, we're not burning as brightly, are we? We're not, we're not able to hold space as well as we could do. So I would be really, really protective of your energy and light, for sure, and do whatever you need to do that. It's just honoring, isn't it? It's an act of self-love and self-nurture.
It is. And I think that's important to bring up, because that's why it's so important to recognize these high cosmic energies that are coming in, and when you may want to distance yourself from people a little bit, just to go inward, or maybe it may not be a good idea to schedule social activities on high intense weekends like this weekend, if you're empathic, because what happens is, when these large bursts of energy come through, a lot of sifting happens within the energetic body, and a lot of emotions bubble to the surface amongst yourself and those around you. And as empaths, many of us are transmuters. So we will transmute the energy of those around us and pick up the energy, not even necessarily recognizing it, that it's not even ours. And so when we are in social environments, and then you couple that with high cosmic energy, that could be tough. That could be really hard. And if you haven't mastered your skills with transmuting, which I think what we talked about, cleansing your mind, your thoughts, cleansing your physical body, cleansing your emotions, all of that plays a role into how quickly you can transmute not only your own energies, but those around you. So just being a little bit more consciously aware of when these energy spikes happen, and asking yourself, should I be around Aunt so-and-so who's a little negative and, has a lot of trauma? Maybe I should take a break for a few days from being around family or friends who might drain me, a little bit. So yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up, specifically for empaths.
Another thing I talk about a lot is surrogation. We have a lot of karmic debt, don't we, playing out, and sometimes we do feel as empaths as well overly responsible for others, and it may not even be a loved one, a family member, it could be a colleague. I've certainly experienced that, where you just want to fix them, you want to you just want to stop them making their mistakes and falling, and this is what I would call surrogation. It's really depleting. so it's knowing when to take that step back, to just kind of holding space. For me, is sometimes it's not even about talking, is it? It's just about holding that loving space, that compassion, that not engaging and whatever's going on for them, and understanding as well that whatever unfolds for them is unfolding for a reason. They need to go through this to get them to where they need to be. So that, for me, I mean, me personally, that was one of the biggest challenges, was knowing, as a mother, as when I used to be a teacher, taking that step back and being detached, not in a bad way, but just in a way that serves everybody.
Exactly. Not in a cold way where you're just shutting someone off, but just holding that space and being being sympathetic versus empathetic, where empathy is where we're picking up on their thoughts and feelings and their energy, but you can still be sympathetic and be there for someone. It's just understanding and feeling within your body. And, but if triggers are coming up for you, then work through those, allow that energy, because when these moon cycles move through, we're sifting and we're moving those emotions to the surface for a reason. So if you're recognizing you're around one person and you're being triggered over and over and over, oftentimes it's something that you may need to draw some attention to within yourself. And it may not be Aunt so-and-so, who is there. She's a catalyst to bring this to the surface, for you to heal. And it's just recognizing the patterns, and then saying, I've had enough. It's time for me to move through this. I need to put a microscope on it, figure out why it's happening. Why does it keep looping? Why does it keep circling around? And I'm going to move through this generational pattern and I'm going to heal it. And sometimes that can take a few rounds before we figure it out. That's been my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, sometimes we just don't want to go there, do we? No, we need to, but it can be really uncomfortable, can't it? Especially, it's like you say, if it's a generational pattern and a dynamic that plays out between us, it can be really hard to break those patterns. So it's, again, that awareness, isn't it, of what's happening and why it's coming up, and just, I often just like to sit with it and just give myself permission to not be okay. Some days I'm not okay, and that's okay. And it's, for me, it's just sitting with it and just allowing myself to feel it, but without engaging that mental. And I find that that's really powerful, because you kind of feel it ebbing, don't you feel the power lessening over you.
Absolutely. And just observing the emotion rather than attaching to it. And that's crucial, and so, what are some things that, that we should be expecting? Do you read out until, the end of the year? What are some things that we might be expecting from the cosmos?
Yeah, so obviously this month, big, a lot, and going into October as well, we're kind of moving into a more feminine energy. So like I said, more inwards, more introspective when we look at it in terms of seasonal cycles. Obviously, we've got the autumn, well, in the Northern Hemisphere, we have the autumn equinox. In Southern Hemisphere countries, obviously, the spring equinox. So for us, I think you're in the north, aren't you? In the Northern Hemisphere, aren't you, Tanya? So it's kind of like, clarity, going withinwards. It is a very poignant period. So we're already feeling that build up of the energy, and it's about getting that clarity over what it is we need to be shedding again. It's just cycles within cycles, basically. And into a quieter introspective phase, whereas a Southern Hemisphere country, they're going into their spring equinox, so it's going to feel more outwards, more action orientated, maybe starting new projects, wanting to bring newness in, all of these things. But remember, within that, you've got all your lunar cycles, you've got your solar cycle. It's endless, isn't it?
It really is. And it's amping up. I can really sense it. It's getting faster. Before it was like, oh, a solar flare every couple months. And now it's a solar flare every twice, several times a day. You're like, whoa, it's riding the waves.
That's it. So just having that bigger picture for me, and just kind of drawing yourself outwards each time, it's try not to, for me, it's trying not to get so stuck in what's happening in that moment, in the drama, because you've got to appreciate all of this energy, all of this impact, all of this cosmic influence. And you're feeling it, we're feeling it on a probably, well, obviously a more conscious level, but there's a whole load of people that are very unconscious in this, but they are still feeling the impact. So it's about being very aware of that as well, and not not getting dragged into it, so that, because that will take you out of yourself as well. So we could really be led off course so easily, I feel, because there's so much going on, and it's going to be pretty much relentless. Obviously, we're going to be leading to the winter solstice and so much in between as well, with all of these planetary retrogrades. So yeah, just lots of opportunity, which is really positive, but also, just it's about mastery in the moment, self mastery in the moment, and just, responding with as much ease and get grace and sovereignty as you can manage, and just keeping coming back to that point of balance, even when you feel yourself in that chaos and led away, just, okay, that's fine, but I'm just going to work on coming back now to that center.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I recognize that with a lot of my clients and my listeners, is that before the energy hits, they've already worked themselves up to experience ascension symptoms, so to speak. And so they, our thoughts are powerful. And if we think we're going to experience something because we know a solar flare is coming, or a full moon is coming, or something, we've already manifested that within our body physically. So I love that you're bringing up to be in that now moment. And, it's important for us to tune into the energies around us, but it's also important for us to not manifest and create symptoms within our body, our physical, emotional, mental bodies, because that's not doing us, that's only creating harm, for us. And so I have a lot of, people that I recognize that with. They'll say, oh, we have a big weekend. And so I'm going to, take it easy because I'm already feeling it in my back, or I'm already doing this, and it's like, okay, you're already creating that in your mind. So then of course your physical body's going to follow suit with that, versus saying, I'm going to just live in the now moment and I'm going to experience what comes up, but I'm not attaching myself to all of these so-called ascension symptoms that, yeah, we're being affected by the cosmic energies. Of course, we can feel that. And as empaths, we can feel it even more powerfully. But if we get caught up in that timeline of ascension symptoms, we're going to have them to the end of, we're going to have them all the time, and so it's just really our belief system plays a huge role in this as well. And how we believe if we believe our body is going to experience something, then it's going to happen, right? So it's just really shifting those thoughts around it as well. And, important to feel into the body and get a sense of, okay, what is my body feeling, but to not create it, with our thoughts, and have a deeper understanding that we are very powerful co-creators. And, if we are continuing to create symptoms within our physical body, then we get stuck and we aren't living our best version of ourselves if we are constantly, feeling into that and creating it. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's been something I've been working on with a lot of my clients, is shifting that belief system around that. And, we have a choice to either ride the wave, through ascension, or we have a choice to be thrashed around, and I choose to ride the wave. I don't know about you guys, but, there's times I feel thrashed around, but 90% of my time I'm riding the wave. And it's kind of like that nice little balance in there that you'll feel when you get to that point where I'm recognizing everyone around me is having all these symptoms and I'm not. It's like, okay, I guess I've shifted my belief system around that. And it took me some time because I was getting thrashed around there for a while, but I think as empaths, we're so sensitive and we can pick up on anything and everything. But a lot of it is recognizing what is ours and what isn't, and then sending that back. And if it is ours, then we need to move through it. We need to heal it. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because you can see I get fired up about that a little bit. I'm passionate about that.
Yeah, because I can feel Oh, you're passionate, Tanya. Yeah, definitely. We all have aspects, don't we, that really get us and really, grip us, and we feel we need to be in our truth with that. But it's true, we all have struggles, don't we? And we all have challenges. And well, I'm just trying to be gentle with myself when I do have those things, because for me, what's important is that we traverse these challenges, and obviously we're going to continue traversing that. That's never going to stop, is it? Otherwise, I guess we wouldn't need to be
Yeah.
here. But it's how quickly we come back, isn't it? It's
Yes.
how quickly we manage to center ourselves. And it's about, for me, it's very much about not getting too carried away in that, and I guess that's what I mean by just holding space for ourselves and others. It's I feel it's one of the biggest aspects of light work as well.
It is. It's
For
learning our
sure.
mastery and understanding that we create we create our own reality, and
Yeah.
our thoughts are electric, our emotions are magnetic, and what we speak out into the world is like an amplifying broadcast system. So it's important to, really be mindful of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how we're presenting ourselves and what we're speaking out into existence, especially around these moon cycles, because like you said, if we're moving into a harvest moon in Pisces, everything's amplified right now. So be very mindful of the words that you're speaking, because words are like spells, right? And so we are putting that energy and information out into the world, and we will be attracting that back to us, whether we like it or not, So I guess I'm not even just tuned into the moon cycles. I'm just extremely mindful in general now about, what am I saying? And what am I saying to myself, which you had brought up earlier, is that internal dialogue that we have, and catching ourselves in that. Are we in loop patterns? Are we in cycles that are not serving us anymore? And are we recognizing it manifesting in other areas in our lives, maybe our relationships or our job, and just being more consciously aware? And I think the moon cycles bring it more to the surface. They shine light on those areas. And so you had mentioned journaling, and I think journaling is highly productive for catching yourself in loop patterns, because if you can really look back at what you've journaled and you see some repetitive patterns or routines taking place that you're like, oh, I didn't recognize that before, then journaling can be so productive in shifting your thoughts, shifting your subconscious, and what's coming to the conscious mind, and allowing yourself to heal those aspects of yourself. So yeah, Zoe, this has been a really exciting conversation. I'm kind of excited for the weekend. I don't know, I get a little bit more inspired when these cosmic energies and shifts come in, but I think it's just because before I used to get drained, and now I've shifted my thoughts and reality around that. So it's like, okay, bring it on. Like I'm excited for this, because I feel personally I level up, during these cosmic shifts. I shed a lot of things, and then it allows me to shift timelines and raise my frequency. And so now it's like I'm using it almost like a teaching method or a lesson when it comes in. It's like, okay, I'm ready to level up here, where I get and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, but I'm kind of excited for this one, because this is a really huge cosmic weekend, coming forward here.
Massive, yeah. Mercury as well, don't forget. So all those lovely conversations that we're going to feel pushed to have, maybe things we've been avoiding. So just be in your light around that as well. We'll be kind of truth seeking and connecting into how we truly feel and not how we think we feel. All of these things will be definitely impacting on us, and it's all going to be amplified. So just embrace it, and just feel that you've got this. If you've got this consciousness, if you've got this wisdom, you can absolutely navigate it beautifully. And if you have a wobble, that's okay. Give yourself permission and space and time to move through it. And
it's just feeling your way back into alignment. So you have that wobble, and you recognize there's something that needs attention and something that needs to be healed, but then moving yourself back into alignment and feeling your way back to what feels good, and that's a good way to just soothe yourself through these high cosmic shifts, is continue to ask yourself, what would feel good for me right now? What would feel good to me right now? What can I do to just bring my body, my mind, my emotions peace? What can I do to soothe myself? And so if there's one word that you can look at this weekend, it's called soothe. How can you soothe yourself through these emotional peaks of energy that are kind of, and they're going to keep coming. This isn't like, oh, this is a big weekend and it's done. They're coming more rapidly and they're coming more powerfully. So we've got to learn to master them the best way that we can, in this now moment. And so, kind of take this as, a gentle challenge to yourself to give yourself that space that it needs to be able to move through these energies, because they are going to get stronger and more powerful. And they have. I mean, look at this year alone and the energies. It's been intense, but it's been a wild ride. It's been fun. At least in my experience.
Yeah, it's exciting times. I mean, how blessed are we to be here at this time? We won't see this again in certainly our lifetime, or our kids or our grandkids, who knows, but it's a time for rapid transformational growth. But along with that, we know come the kind of darker struggles and the chaos. Exactly. And but it goes hand in hand. It can't be separated out, can it? We need both to move forward. So
absolutely. So Zoe, how can people reach out to you if they want to schedule a one-on-one session, or they want to sign up for, I see that you have memberships, you have, Instagram. How can people reach out to you to find out more information?
Oh, thank you, Tanya. So the best place to go is Instagram. I find everything is on there. I'm a lunar light worker, and I currently have a membership. So it's the Lunar Light Worker membership. So we're a powerful sisterhood. We commune every week, and I run high frequency energy. We do moon rituals. We I talk about higher kind of sacred topics, aspects of light work. I do card readings. There's loads going on. And I also teach energy tools so that you can run that on yourself, protect your energy and all those sorts of things. At the time of recording this, we're opening doors over the equinox. We open up 4 times a year over the solstices and equinoxes. So, but all of that information you can find in Instagram. And I also do one-to-one coaching as well for those of you that want to connect more to your soul purpose and know what you're mastering in this lifetime.
Well, thank you, Zoe. This has been amazing. And thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and your knowledge around the lunar cycles, the cosmic cycles, the earth cycles, and how it affects us. And, for everyone out there, be gentle, take care, spend some time in the water if you can, a salt bath, and just do things that soothe you, that make you feel good. Okay. Thank you, Zoe, for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.